Shalom, and today is Shabbat because today is another holy day. And today is Shemini Atzaret. And what is this all about today, guys?
Rejoicing.
Rejoicing. We're commanded to rejoice, but this is the 8th day.
The beginning.
So we've celebrated Sukkot for 7 days. And what happens? He goes, I've had so much fun tabernacling with every single one of you. I want us to do this another day for eternity. And so one day, that's what's going to happen. We're going to go into the 8th day, and it will be forever, and it will be after the millennial reign. But we'll all be there together. Isn't that going to be awesome? Okay, so we've invited all of you, our live streamers, to join us here today for this celebration. And as you can tell, we're out at beautiful Fort Parker Lake, Springfield in Mahia, Texas. And it is absolutely gorgeous today. We've had an inch of rain. It is amazing. And we're enjoying each other. We've eaten. We're going to study about what it means to have Sukkot. We're going to understand what it means and who it was for. And I think that's one of the most important things. And Brother Scott brought this up earlier. He said, it's not for Jews. And I want our live streamers to understand we do actually have a Jew here with us. That they are from the Jewish lineage, but we are not Jews. We are not from the line of Judah. Neither are we following the traditions of the Jews, but we are following the way. And I'm going to tell you, the way, the commandments are for the house of Israel, and every single one of you are part of that house. And we're going to get into that in a little bit after we go through Leviticus. But do we have any questions before we get started, guys? Okay, so today, guess what? During this day, during this festival, stories are told. So I'm going to tell us a story to start us off. Aren't y'all excited?
It's not about me, is it?
Huh?
It's not about me, is it?
It's about Valerie.
Another one of those stories that you tell.
But first, and thank you, we're gonna pray. We're gonna open in prayer. Seth, would you open us in prayer, please?
Oh, Father, thank you for bringing us all together today, Father. Father, just thank you for your word. It's the foundation for what we stand on. Just bring us back to you. We're all your children. Thank you for just giving us a chance to come back to you and be a God with you, Father. Father, just watch over Tiffany and Charles as they bring new life into this family.
Amen.
And just watch over their travels down to Hillsborough, and just be with them and bless that family and their baby, Father. And Father, just be with all the ones that aren't with us today, the family members that we can't turn to you. Maybe one day they will listen and they will hear the truth in your word. And I will pray all these things in the precious name of Yeshua HaMashiach. I pray these things. Amen.
Amen. And I want to add one more thing. So what does the word say? Don't eat, get filled, and get up and forget where it came from, right? So Abba, in the precious name of Yeshua, we thank you for the feast that you gave to us today, because we are all fat and sassy. We're going to have to go walking, right? We're going to have to go hiking. So we're going to get started. And what we're going to start with is Leviticus 22. Well, it would help if I turned my Bible. Oh, we're not going to start with Leviticus. I promised you a story. And it's a good story. It's about Valerie. It's not, but she's very, very nervous.
Yes, I am.
I've got a lot of stories I can tell about Valerie. And actually, a lot of them surround Fort Parker. Okay.
That's all a good story.
That's a good story. And I've already shared some of them today, but I won't share them on live stream today. But we will be getting to that later. Okay, this story is a magic gourd, and it's a story for Sukkot. Once long ago, there was a young couple who were truly in love. They decided to be married in the autumn under the canopy of the sukkah. And guys, what is the sukkah?
Sugar. Oh. I'm sorry.
You go to the corner and put your nose in it.
It's a
tent.
And they stayed in sukkahs, which were tents.
They are tents, guys. Listen, a sukkah is a 3-sided tent. And generally, the roof of the sukkah was just branches, so that you could look up and you could see the full of the moon through those.
And weren't they certain types of branches? I mean, they specified sometimes that. Yeah.
Willow.
There were palm, willow, olive branches.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the things they used to top there. And I'm going to show y'all some really cool pictures of some of the wildest sukkahs that they've seen. Listen, this is a fun time of the year. In fact, remember when Nehemiah, he called everyone together and he said, rejoice. They had just discovered that they had missed so much of their heritage. And he said, today, Yahweh says, rejoice. It's a command. Be happy. Smile. And let no one steal that joy from you,
Amen.
guys. Because listen, if you let them steal it from you, it means they've got power over you.
That's right.
So, in the name of Yeshua, no. Okay, so a lot about a sukkah.
Where's the story?
Y'all are so demanding. Oh
I
my
have to
goodness.
stay on track.
Okay. So they decided to be married in the autumn under the canopy of the sukkah in the presence of their friends and relatives. And when the time came, they invited the ancestors and said their vows with the full moon peeking through the roof that lined the sukkah roof, the branches. I'm having to interpret as we go. After the ceremony, the guests came forth to offer gifts and blessings to the couple, and suddenly a stranger stepped forward. He had a long, full beard, a lined face, and rumpled clothes, and everyone was puzzled. He must be from another town, they murmured to one another, probably traveling through. And the man spoke to the bride and the groom, because your love is so true, I have a special gift for you. And he held out a smooth, round gourd that gleamed in the soft light. This gourd is magic, he said. It contains a wish, but only one wish. So you must use it very wisely and carefully. Don't waste it. And the guest stared at the strange man as he continued. He said, the wish must be made in the autumn when the moon is full, and come into the sukkah and speak to the ancestors. Which, to explain, when you build the sukkah, you're inviting Abraham and Yishak and Isaac and Yaakov to all come in and sup with you. And then together agree on your wish before you make it. And the strange man handed them the gourd, and before they could thank him, he was gone. They hung the gourd in the center of the sukkah, where the moonlight gave it a special glow. It so happened that a greedy man among the guests overheard the story about the magic gourd, and y'all know what's going to happen. That night, he snuck into the sukkah in the wee hours in the morning, and he stole the gourd, and he replaced it with another that looked almost identical, but was as empty of wishes as the air. On the way home in his wagon, he was so excited. He was thinking about how the gourd was going to make him rich. He was so excited that he forgot to look where he was going, and he drove his wagon off the road into a mud hole where its wheels became hopelessly stuck. And the more he tried to get out, the deeper he sank. And finally, in desperation, he yelled, I wish I was out of this mess. Uh-oh. Instantly, he was on dry ground, and the single wish was wasted and gone forever. And meanwhile, the young couple started their life together, and when the winter rains came, they brought the gourd into their home to keep it protected throughout the year. And in the autumn, they hung it in the center of their sukkah, thinking, of course, that it still contained a wish. And everything went really well for them for a few years, but after a while, their business began to fail, and they had trouble making ends meet. And that year, on the first day of Sukkah, the woman turned to her husband and said, I think it's time to use our wish. If we could only get on our feet financially, I think everything would fall into place. And her husband agreed. And that evening, they went into the sukkah and sat for a while in the stillness. And then they welcomed the ancestors, Sarah and Rahel, Rachel, Rebecca, Leah, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. And they invited the spirits of their grandparents and all those who had come before them. Guys, listen, what's passed down from generation to generation? The blessings. Mm-hmm. The blessings of the grandparents and the great-grandparents. And when they felt their presence, they spoke to the ancestors silently when it was time to make their wish, and they placed their hands on the gourd. And the husband spoke, and he said, I've been thinking, maybe if we concentrate on our work and we work together a little harder, we can make a go of it without wasting this wish. We might really need it later. And his wife nodded. So that night they ate dinner in the sukkah under the stars without using the wish. And from that moment on, they concentrated on working together and working harder until business began to improve. And after a time, they were earning plenty of money to get by. And a few years later, and one day, after a few years passed, and one day the husband said to the wife, "There is only one thing missing from our life." And she knew just what he meant. A baby. And we're going to have a baby day after tomorrow. And so again, they entered the sukkah on the full autumn moon and sat in silence. They invited their ancestors and waited until the sukkah filled with the holiness of those who came before them. And when they put their hands on the gourd, ready to make a wish, the wife spoke. "You know, I think we should be patient. Perhaps if we pray for a child, we may be blessed with one. Who knows, we might really need the wish another time." And her husband agreed. And so they prayed for a child and waited patiently, and eventually they were blessed with a baby. And a few years later, another baby arrived, and then another. They were very blessed. Right, Charles? And the children grew up. And the man and the woman grew old. And one day, the wife turned to her husband and said, "I think it's time to use our wish." And he nodded, for he knew the only thing she would wish for. What would that be? They're old. To be young again. To live forever. And so they went into the sukkah where the gourd hung in the glow of the moon, and they invited the ancestors and sat quietly with them in the soft light. And when they put their hands on the gourd and looked into each other's eyes, they both shook their heads and said, "Not yet." For in the moonlight they had realized that their love would live forever, just like the spirits of their ancestors. Who knows, maybe someday we'll really need that wish. So they went back into the house and grew older. Eventually, the husband passed away, and his wife followed soon after, and their children kept the gourd and then passed it on to their children, who passed it on to their children through the generations. And many years later, when their great-great-grandchildren were decorating the sukkah, one of them unearthed the gourd and called to her brother, "Look at this old gourd. I think there was some kind of story to it." And they passed it back and forth, and his sister said, "I remember Grandma told me it was a wedding present to her grandparents. She said it was magic and it had a wish." And the great-granddaughter shook the gourd and handed it to her brother. "It feels pretty empty now." They must have used it up, and they laughed, and then he held the gourd to his ear. He said, "This is strange. You can hear something inside," he said, "kind of like a seashell." And he handed it to his sister, and she held it to her ear. She said, "It sounds like the wind or like whispering voices." His eyes widened. Maybe it still has magic. And they hung it carefully in the center of the sukkah. And that night, when they invited the ancestors, the sukkah filled with the quiet voices of the ancestors as the gourd shone with the light of the moon. So guys, listen. That gourd was passed down. How many generations? 4. Did they ever use that wish? Why?
Have to.
They depended on Yahweh, right?
Pray about it.
Pray. Go to Yah with everything. Be patient. I'm going to tell you something. Some of the things we want and we wish for, look at the poor man who stole the magic gourd. Did it help him at all? Got him out of the muck for a moment, right? But that was fleeting. I mean, the things that are precious to us, they come through Yah.
That's right.
So that's story number 1. How'd y'all like that?
That's good. So true.
I'm saving the best for last. Oh no, I just got rid of all the stories. Okay, so they're there somewhere.
Good.
Help. Okay. So we are going to Leviticus 22, and we're going to understand everything that you need to know about this beautiful, joyful celebration.
Page 128.
Thank you, Sean.
Sean, you're like so on top of things. And we're going to 26.
It took me. Oh, what?
Verse 26.
We're going to
Verse 26.
22,
129.
26.
Okay, what's 29?
You were close. You were just on the opposite page. Okay, are you ready? And this is all about Sukkot. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, "When a bull or sheep or goat is born, it shall be 7 days old with its mother. And from the 8th day and thereafter, it is acceptable as an offering made by fire to Yahweh. But do not slay a cow or a sheep and its young on the same day." And when you slaughter a slaughtering of thanksgiving to Yahweh, slaughter it for your acceptance, and it is eaten that same day. Leave none of it till morning. I am Yahweh, and you shall guard my commandments and do them. I am Yahweh. And do not profane my set apart name, and I shall be set apart among the children of Israel. I am Yahweh who sets you apart, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim to be your Elohim. I am Yahweh. And now we are starting in 23, and I want you to listen very close to these words and see if you hear anywhere where he's talking to the tribe of Judah. 23:1. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, The appointed times of Yahweh, which you are to proclaim as set-apart gatherings, my appointed times are these. Okay, there are several things we need to look at just in this verse. Who's he talking to?
Israel.
Children of Israel.
The children of Israel. And guys, what I want to explain to our live streamers, and listen, my group here, they know all about who we are. But if you will go back to the story of Solomon and his son, Rehoboam completely split the house of Israel. And it became the northern tribe, and it became the southern tribe. Guys, listen, the northern tribe went to Samaria. And when the Assyrians came in, guess who they conquered? Guess who they took away? The house of Israel. Not the house of Judah, but the house of Israel. And when their time of captivity was over and they were released, where did they go? Say it loud.
Everywhere.
They went everywhere.
Everywhere.
They went, literally, it says they went to the four corners of the earth. So guess who you are?
You are.
We are
House of Israel.
the house of Israel, guys. I mean, and so many out there don't even understand it. We're the house of Israel. We're not the tribe of Judah, but he's not talking to the tribe of Judah. He's talking to all of Israel. And even if you're not genetically from the house of Israel, we choose to be Israel.
That's right.
Because we're following what?
The Torah.
We're following the
commandments.
way and the Torah and the truth and the light, and Yeshua is every bit of that. Okay, so now that we know, he's talking to us. He's talking to us, the lost. Listen, what does Matthew 15:24 say?
He came to the lost people, the lost house of Israel.
You had almost the whole thing memorized. I'm so
Almost.
proud of you.
Says 24?
Matthew 15:24. But you remember the 24 part.
15, 24?
And it's on page
I
937.
was there.
You're so good. Okay. I want you to look at this verse, guys. And he answering said, and this is Yeshua speaking, this is our Savior, our Messiah. He said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So who are you? Who are those following Yeshua? It is the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And we were lost. Why were we lost? We
Lost
forgot
in
who.
translation.
We were lost in translation. Thanks, Seth. Literally, from the Greek, the Hebrew to the Greek to the English, it was totally lost.
Yeah.
But guys, listen. We were lost because we didn't know who we were. We were lost because we didn't know who Yahweh made us to be. And so now he's found us. And we are living in that great awakening period when we are waking up and we're going, oh my goodness, look who we really are. So he's talking to us. Okay, now let's look at something else. All of this is in the first two verses. The appointed times of Yahweh. We're back in Leviticus 23 in the second verse. The appointed times of Yahweh, which you are to proclaim as set-apart gatherings. My appointed times. Does this say anything
No.
about the house of Judah?
No.
Okay, these are Yahweh's appointed times. So when they say, what are you, a Jew? No. Now, Sean could say yes. But at the same time, are we following the Jewish tradition? We are not. We are not. We are following the way that Yeshua set, the example he set for us. What did Shaul say? I imitate Yeshua. Who do we imitate? He said, you imitate me.
Mm-hmm.
So we should, in essence, be imitating who? Yeshua. Walking the walk, talking the talk, obeying Torah. Okay, and let's keep reading here.
To imitate Shah.
Yes, and Yeshua imitates. Listen, Yeshua didn't do anything he didn't see Abba doing.
That's right.
He said that he didn't say anything, he didn't do anything that he didn't first see and hear Abba say. 6 days work is done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest, a set-apart gathering, and you do no work. It is a Sabbath to Yahweh in all your dwellings. These are the appointed times of Yahweh, set-apart gatherings, which you are to proclaim at their appointed times. And he goes on and go down to 14. Go down to verse 14 and 23. And you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until the same day that you have brought an offering to your Elohim, a law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Okay, now he's just talking about the day of unleavened bread. Okay, so flip over. And we are going to go to 15. Verse 15. And from the morrow, after the Sabbath, from the day you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, and he's talking about Shavuot, or the day of Pentecost, you shall count for yourselves 7 completed Sabbaths. Until the morrow, after the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days, and then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahweh. Bring from your dwellings for a wave offering 2 loaves of bread, of 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour. They are baked with leaven, first fruits to Yahweh. And besides the bread, you shall offer 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones, and 1 young bull and 2 rams. And they are an ascending offering to Yahweh with their grain offering and their drink offerings, an offering made by fire for a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. So guys, listen, I want to ask you a question. He's talking about ascending offerings. What are those?
Praise.
Praise.
What are they to? What do they help you do?
Actually,
we offer.
They cleanse the toxins from your body.
Okay, but they are to draw us nearer to Yahweh. It's a sacrifice. Listen, if you were carrying a bull or a ram, I'm going to tell you something. That was everything you had. It's not like they had a Mercedes-Benz sitting out there that they could go get into, right? You see what I'm saying? Did they have a big house? No. They're still in the desert here. So when you brought a bull or a ram, it was very expensive.
And it was your best.
It was your best. It had to be your best. So the majority of the offerings were not for sin. They were to draw nearer to our Father. They were to give praise and thanks to Him. The peace offering, the thanksgiving offering, the ascending offerings. The majority of the offerings were to draw nearer to Him. And listen, we offer ourselves to Him. Mm-hmm. We want to draw nearer to Him. You can't do the sacrifices right now. Why?
There's no
temple.
There's no temple. And you can only offer sacrifices where?
The temple on the slaughter place.
with a high priest.
Yahweh.
The only place that He said His name, in Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem. So that's the only place that any offerings can be made. So there are no offerings made today. That's part of the commandments. That has been not done away with, but for right now we can't do it. But I'm going to tell you something. When you look through everything about the millennial reign, you can look through Jeremiah, you can look through Isaiah and Ezekiel, and what you will find is that there will be a reinstitution of sacrifices during the millennial reign.
Because there'll be a high priest.
There will be a Levite high priest, and guess who will be our king? Yeshua. He will be reigning and ruling as king. And so when the Levites come back into rule in the temple, they will be making sacrifices. Why?
To feed us.
Okay. It's going to be to feed us, guys. Thanksgiving. Because you ate with the priest. You sat and ate with Yahweh, your sacrifice. Okay? Okay, let's go forward. and we are in 23:19, and you shall offer 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 male goats a year old as a slaughter of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them beside the bread of the first fruits as a wave offering before Yahweh besides the 2 lambs, and they are set apart to Yahweh for the priest. And on this same day you shall proclaim a set apart gathering for yourselves, and you do no servile work on it. A law, listen, forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. So we started from somewhere, guys, way back there, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if it was a law forever for our ancestors, is it not a law forever for us? Has not been done away with.
He doesn't change.
He does not change. He is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So this is a forever law. So we are to perform these. And so the first festivals have already been accomplished through what?
Through his death, burial, resurrection, and ascension.
His first coming. Everything was fulfilled in that
First
first
four
coming.
feasts.
That's right, the very first 4. So the last 3 will be fulfilled in his second coming. So we are performing dress rehearsals in preparation for that day, because one day on Yom Teruah, as that shofar is blowing, we're going to see him ascending. I mean, and that's the one festival that is 2 days long, because you don't know when it's going to be. It's the first sighting of the sliver of the moon. Until you see that moon, you don't know that you're in Yom Teruah. Okay? So we don't know when it's going to be. Listen, we've tried to celebrate Yom Teruah this year we got it right, but for the last 3 years we missed it. There wasn't even a moon. We were still in the dark. So nobody's going to know the day or the time.
Just
Okay.
the season.
Just the season. The wise virgin will know the season.
That's right.
And she will be prepared. Okay, and we're in 22. And when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your field when you reap, and do not gather any gleanings from your harvest. Leave them for the poor and for the stranger. I am Yahweh your Elohim. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Yisrael, saying, in the 7th new moon. So here we come to the fall feast. So the 7th new moon is Tishri. That is not right. No.
Look at him.
She wants a girl so bad she's put a bow in David's hair. No.
That's
That's how it
wrong.
starts.
I'm sorry, live streamers. I was totally taken off guard
Now he's
by
got
a
my
precious little boy with a
A scrunchie in his
a
hair.
scrunchy ponytail. Okay. Hey. 24. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th new moon, on the first day of the new moon, you have a rest, a remembrance of Teruah, a blowing of the shofar, a set apart gathering. You do no servile work, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, on the 10th day of the 7th new moon is Yom HaKippurim, and it shall be a set apart gathering for you, and you shall afflict your beings, and shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And you do no work on that same day, for it is Yom Kippurim, to make atonement for you before Yahweh your Elohim.
Can I interject?
Yes.
A lot of people on live stream may not understand what the 7th month is. Right now it's the 7th month, but if we look at our calendar, it says it's the 10th month.
That is
So
correct.
if we begin our months according to the Hebrew calendar, it starts in March, April. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So then you count from there 7 months. You come up with October here, and
Sometimes
of course,
September.
Tishri,
Yeah.
right? October, September, depending
September,
on the
October.
moon.
That's right. And everything. So for our live stream audience, oh goodness, let me plug in, because we're fixing to go dead, and we don't want that to happen. Somebody might want to actually hear what we're saying.
Oh, it's
I thought we had plugged in. Okay, so I guess I'll leave that on there. Can I close that?
Yep.
What if my finger misses? Okay, it didn't. Okay. Okay, sorry there, live streamers. So, for you live streamers, the calendar we have is a secular calendar. And it began as the Julius Caesar calendar, and then it changed over
Gregorian.
to the Gregorian that we're on right now. So, the calendar that y'all gave, and listen, when I first started reading through scriptures, I was really trying to keep the feast days, but it just would not fit on our calendar. Would not work. So you have to go and you can download a Hebraic calendar, and you can actually put it on, I think in Planner, Day Planner, it will put the Hebraic calendar on with your regular calendar. So you can see what day it is on the Hebrew calendar. And you really need to start looking at that, because I'm going to tell you something. Amazing things happen circularly, cyclically. Help me.
Amen. Okay.
On the Hebrew calendar. And so to track it is amazing. So thank you for bringing that up, Scott. And Yom Kippurim, so we have the blowing of the shofar which one day our Messiah, our Savior, Yeshua HaMashiach, will return in the clouds. Yom Kippurim is what? It's the day the books are open, guys.
Yom Kippur.
Judgment.
Yom Kippur. But what happens on Yom Kippur when the books are open?
You get sealed in the book of life.
He determines, are you in the book of life, or are you marked out of the book of life? Are you going to stay there, or is he going to take you out?
Because everybody is put in the book of life.
Yes.
When you're born.
Yes.
So you're there, but you certainly don't want to be.
Listen, guys, you don't want to be
Blotted out.
removed. You don't want to be blotted from the book of life. And so Yom Kippur is the day of atonement. It's the day that we go before the judge. And the 10 days prior to Yom Kippur, from Yom Teruah to Yom Kippur, those are the 10 days of awe. And you spend it repenting and allowing Yah to clean out everything that needs to be done. Listen, do it now. Don't wait for the day that we're truly standing before the judgment throne. Don't wait till then. You don't want to wait till then. You want to clean everything up now. Okay, so thank you, Scott, for stopping us here. Okay, and for any being who is not afflicted, on that same day he shall be cut off from his people. That's pretty severe. And any being who does any work on that same day, that being I shall destroy from the midst of his people. You do no work, a law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Do you see anything there that says, however, when Yeshua comes, all this is going to be done away with? I'm going to send a Savior and everything's... No, it doesn't say that. Yeshua knew that. Yeshua knows the timing. Listen, Hasatan knows the timing. I think he's hard at work today. Okay, it is a Sabbath of rest to you, and you shall afflict your beings on the 9th day of the new moon at evening. From evening to evening you observe your Shabbat. And Yeshua and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to my children of Israel, saying, On the 15th day of the 7th new moon is the feast of Sukkot, for 7 days are to Yahweh. On the first day is a set-apart gathering, and you do no servile work for 7 days. You bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And on the 8th day, which is what today is, it's Shemini Atzaret. On the 8th day, there shall be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. It is a closing festival, and you do no servile work. These are the appointed times of Yahweh, which you proclaim as set-apart gatherings, to bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh, an ascending offering, and a grain offering, a slaughtering, and a drink offering, as commanded for every day. And besides the Sabbaths of Yahweh, and besides your gifts, and besides all your vows, and besides all your voluntary offerings which you give to Yahweh, on the 15th day of the 7th new moon, when you gather in the fruit of the land, celebrate the festival of Yahweh for 7 days. And on the first day is a rest, and on the 8th day is a rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of good trees, branches of palm, twigs of leafy trees, and willows of the stream. And you shall, what?
Rejoice.
Rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. And you shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahweh for 7 days in the year. A law for how long?
Ever.
Forever and ever and ever in your generations. Celebrate it in the 7th new moon. Listen, the only way it's not a law in your generations is if your generation comes to an end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then it's not going to be forever because you're not here to do it. And 42, thank you. Dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native born in Israel dwell in the booths, so that your generations know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. Thus did Moshe speak of the appointed times of Yahweh to the children of Israel. So what we've seen here, really, we went through all of the festivals, guys. And we did it because a lot of our live streamers don't understand that these are still commanded feasts. Now, did you see Christmas? Did you see Easter? Did you see Halloween? Did you see any of these in there?
Nope.
No. I'm sorry,
No, if the majority of people that read the scriptures, read the Bible, could understand that it was written for a covenanted people. It wasn't written for Gentiles. I mean, it speaks of us coming across strangers, Gentiles, and interacting with them, but it was written to a covenanted people.
Okay, so to what Dennis is saying, listen, if you're not covenanted, you don't have to be obedient to these commandments, to this commanded feast. But I'm gonna tell you something. If you're not covenanted, you're not his people. You're not his people.
That's what it says in Deuteronomy.
Yes, sir.
Add something kind of odd. I mean, you think about every bit of our dating when you look up anything in the earth is carbon dating. If you think about covenant, I mean, I know this, I'm going to get a little blowback on this one, but covenant stuff is carbon, oxygen, and then vapor. I mean, if you want to go back and everything, if you're covenanted, that means that you have to, your soul and spirits have to be balanced. And throughout the years, the Gentiles, we were made out of methane gas. Think about it. So if you don't have
Some more than others.
Yeah, it's not as hard to explain, but you have to be very careful because it is so far-fetched. Because everything that's in here, every word is, every letter means elements and chemicals, and the balance of everything that was in this earth was in us balanced at one time.
Yeah, Abba is the great scientist. He's the great creator. He's a chemist. He's the one that created everything on the earth. I'm inclined to, I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to go there. I was so good. Nehemiah.
Oh, I love
I'm going to talk to you later about that.
But anyway, let me sort of get up so I won't have it on my mind.
Okay.
Carbon, oxygen, vapor, electrons, vapor again, atoms, nitrogen, and titanium. And that's where we are now. If you look at the periodic table, 96 to the present day hasn't been named. It continues to multiply and thrive. But when you look at the ages, it says, okay, from Noah to Ham to Shem, they lived, it would show you between each generation where there was sin. One would live to 750, one would go to 800, then they would go back down to, for the wives, when they had their offspring, it would go down to 75. So we're at 120 now. So we're right back, there's nothing new under the sun. So we're right back
Where?
where we started from, where the sin is reached its
Highest level.
Peak.
highest level. I mean, and, you look at the skies now, you don't see as many stars.
No,
now.
you
Stars
don't.
and spirits and the planets, when they look, we don't have molten magma as far as our core. Molten magma is floating currency. It's a magneto. It doesn't push, it doesn't pull, it just simply is.
Okay. So we've got live streamers that are not going to understand what you're talking about. But I hear you. We've probably got a bunch on there that are way smarter than me, and their eyes aren't crossed like mine are right now. I'm uncrossed.
Well, he has. What he's saying,
I think for stopping you.
he has.
Seriously.
He has an order.
Somebody stop me.
Y'all,
No.
Yah has an order.
Mask, huh?
The way he created. You said he's a scientist. He created everything in
Yeah.
a certain order, and we've gotten out of that order, and things are just what they are today. And it's
We had the vision and the vision was lost.
Yes.
and that's it.
Guys, but we're waking up. We're waking up to the fullness of the word. And you know what? I thank Yah every day that he shook us awake, that he had us read from the beginning of the book all the way through to the end and go, wait, something's not lining up here. There's commandments back here that says they are forever and ever. So we're going to see how these affected Nehemiah right now. So we're in Nehemiah 8. 1.
Nehemiah 8.
We're here.
Do y'all want to talk? Y'all want to read?
Read? Yeah.
I like to read.
Uh-oh. Is this not working? Hey, guys. What are you doing?
Would y'all like to speak?
Okay.
It's your,
It's supposed to be
It's on.
on.
It's red.
Okay, this one says it's...
Is the strip working?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is it Nehemiah?
I tell you what.
Nehemiah.
Go ahead and start reading. Dennis, would you look in
8:36.
that bag and
Or
see if you can find
8:37.
another plug?
837.
I'm sorry. It's scary. 8-1. Have I got you?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Till when?
Till I say stop it.
Say it nicely, please.
Okay, I'll be nice.
And when the 7th new moon came to the children of Israel were in their cities, and all the people gathered together as one man in the open space that was in front of the water gate. And they spoke to Ezra the scribe to bring the book of the Torah of Moshe, which Yahuwah had commanded Israel. And Ezra the priest brought the Torah before the assembly of both men and women and all who could hear with understanding on the first day of the seventh new moon. And he read from it in the open space in front of the water gate that morning, from morning until midday, before the men and women and those who could understand, and the ears of all the people listened to the book of the Torah. And Ezra the scribe stood on a platform of wood, which they had made for the purpose, and beside him on his right stood Mattheyahu and Shema and Anya and Uriah and Hilkiah and Masiseiah. And on his left stood Pedaiah and Mishael and Milkiah and Hashum and Hashbadana and Zechariah and Meshulam. And Ezra opened the book in the sight of all the people, and he was above all the people. And when he opened it, all the people stood up. And Ezra blessed Yahuwah, the great Elohim. Then all the people answered, Amen, Amen, while lifting up their hands. And they bowed their heads and worshipped Yahuwah with faces to the ground. And Yeshua and Bani and Sherebiah and Yamin, Akub, Shaphatai, Hodai, Mashiach, Kalida, Azara, Yozabad, Hanan, Peliah, and the Luites caused the people to understand the Torah while the people were in their place. And they read in the book of the Torah of Elohim, translating to give the sense and cause them to understand the reading. And Nehemiah, who was the governor, and Ezra the priest, the scribe, and the Levites, who taught the people, said to all the people, This day is set apart to Yahuwah your Elohim. Do not mourn or weep, for all the people wept when they heard the words of the Torah.
So, guys, do y'all see what happened? I'm going to tell you something. We're there. We're there. It's like with the tribe of Israel. They came, and this was mostly Judites that came back from Babylon. When they came back, and they found the Torah scroll, and they started reading it. Guess what they did? They wept. That's us. Mm-hmm. How many in here are out here? It's so nice to be outside, though my back is hot. How many out here shed a tear or two when you found out that you had followed deception? Mm-hmm. I did. I felt robbed. I felt like I had had much stolen from me. This is how these people felt. They're like, what? What? And they saw him reading it straight from the scroll. So they were very broken. Okay, keep going.
Where am I?
10.
Torah. Then he said to them, Go, eat the fat, drink the sweet, and send portions to those for whom none is prepared. For this day is set apart to our Yahuwah. Do not be sad, for the joy of Yahuwah is your strength. And the Levites were silencing all the people, saying, Hush, for the day is set apart. Do not be sad. And all the people went to eat and to drink, and to send portions and make a great rejoicing, because they understood the word that were made known to them. And on the second day, the heads of the fathers' houses of all the people with the priests and Levites were gathered to Ezra the scribe in order to study the words of Torah.
And they're also known as the heads.
What did I say?
The Heeds, but that's okay. It sounded like they were another tribe. Okay, go ahead. You're doing good.
And they found written in the sweat. And they found written in the Torah which Yahuwah had commanded by Moshe that the children of Israel should dwell in booths in the festival of the seventh new moon, and that they should announce and proclaim in all their cities and in Jerusalem, saying, Go out to the mountain and bring olive branches, branches of oil trees and myrtle branches and palm branches and branches of leafy trees to make booths as it is written. So the people went out and brought them and made themselves booths, each one on the roof of his house, and in their courtyards, and in the courtyards of the house of Elohim, and in the open space of the water gate, and in the open space of the gate of Ephraim. And the entire assembly of those who had come back from the captivity made booths and sat under the booths, for since the days of Yeshua, son of Nun, until that day, and the children of Israel had not done so, and there was very great rejoicing. And day by day, from the first day until the last day, he read from the book of the Torah of Elohim, and they performed this festival 7 days, and on the 8th day there was an assembly according to the right order.
That is today.
And the music played just for you, just right there. Guys, look at Deuteronomy 31:46.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
While y'all are going to that, can I say this?
You said 31?
Yeah, I did.
31 don't have 46.
Yeah, it sure doesn't. Who stole my 46?
Fire.
Sean, was it you?
He took it.
Go ahead, Scott.
Isaiah 11.
Try 32.
Just to reiterate why this day, the Feast of Tabernacles, is so important. Let me read this to you. And in that day there shall be a root of Yasharai, which is Jesse, which shall stand as an ensign for the people, and to it shall the other nations seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that Adonai shall set his hand again the second time to recover the set apart remnant of his people, and which shall be left from I can't pronounce all these words, Mitzrayim, Egypt, all the places where they've been delivered. Because in the end times, what is going to happen is the enemy's going to, Elohim is going to give him a moment to do what he's to do. Nothing can be done in God's realm without his permission. So these people that are set apart are going to be persecuted in great degree. Some will be killed, some will be put in prison. But those who are left from these places, it's going to be just like when he delivered them out of Israel or Egypt the first time. There's going to be a second deliverance. A lot of people don't understand that and know that. And it's very important to understand why there's going to be a Feast of Tabernacles, because we're going to again be marching through the land, going toward Jerusalem.
Be ready.
With praise and worship on our lips.
It's the second
being
exile.
set free from the enemy at that time.
The second Exodus.
Yes.
Okay, so look at Deuteronomy. Thank you so much, Scott. Look at Deuteronomy 31:10. We're going to try that.
Okay.
Good job.
You want somebody to read it?
Thanks. Yes, would you read 31:10 and read all the way down through 12?
Okay. And Moshe commanded them, saying, at the end of 7 years, at the appointed time, the year of release, at the festival of Sukkot, when all Israel comes to appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he chooses, which is Torah, before all Israel and their hearing. You want to read to them?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Assemble the people, the men and the women and the little ones, and your sojourner who is within your gates, so that they hear and so that they learn to fear Yahweh your Elohim and guard to do all the words of this Torah. Can we keep going?
No, that's perfect. So, guys, what did he just read? What did you just read, Sean? He's like, I don't know what I read.
Well,
So
Sukkot, the festival is Sukkot, the year of release.
Yes.
And the appointed time of the year of release at the festival of Sukkot.
So when everyone comes to appear before Yahweh, he's there to do what? Read this Torah before all Israel in their hearing. Read the Torah. They need to hear it. And listen, we needed to hear it. And we just finished Deuteronomy, and that was amazing. My favorite book. Assemble the people, the men and the women and the little ones, and your sojourner, the stranger. Listen, even if you're not of the tribe of Israel, the sojourner, the stranger, you're going to inherit with Israel. Ezekiel tells us that, right?
Yeah.
Sojourner who is within your gate, so that they hear and so that they learn to fear Yahweh your Elohim and guard to do what?
All
The
words
Torah.
of
All.
Torah.
All the words of this Torah. And listen, guys, if Yah is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, is any part of this Torah done away with?
No.
No, it is not. It is not. I want you to look at something else too. I want you to look at 32:46. Deuteronomy 32:46. He said to them, set your heart on all the words with which I warn you today, so that you command your children to guard, even your children to guard to do all the words of this Torah. For it is not a worthless word for you, because it is your life. And by this word you prolong your days on the soil which you pass over the Jordan to possess. Listen, guys, honor your father and mother so that you live long. A commandment with a promise. So, wanted to hit that. Thank you. Numbers 29, 12 through 16. And then we're going to tell another story. I had to restart my computer because 29, 12 through 16.
Can I read?
You surely can.
What's the page number?
It's 174.
What?
One?
No.
You're supposed to know.
Oh, no.
You're supposed to be telling us, Sean.
I
Let me
tried.
turn this way.
I thought it was at the middle.
Okay, Seth.
29, 12.
29, 12 through 6.
I should make a choice to learn all the rules of life.
16. Right. Perfect. I got it. And on the 15th day of the 7th new moon, you have a set apart gathering. You do no servile work, and you shall you shall celebrate a festival of Yahuwah 7 days. To Yahuwah 7 days. And you shall bring near an ascending offering, an offering made by fire, a sweet fragrance to Yahuwah, 13 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 lambs, a year old, perfect ones they are. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 of an ephah for each of the 13 bulls, 2/10 for each of the 2 rams, and 1/10 for each of the 14 lambs, and 1 male goat as a sin offering, besides the continual ascending offering, its grain offering, and its drink offering.
Guys, listen. How many times has he repeated
That's
this
just
in
what I was going to
Scripture?
say. This over and over.
I mean,
There it is.
okay, so House of Israel, do you get it? This is important. It is so very important. And not to do servile work, and not to cause others to do servile work on this day.
Explain servile work.
Servile work would be anything that would make you money. If you're going out and making money from it. But guys, listen, they also include cleaning your house.
Anything you benefit from.
Any-
Personal gain.
Personal gain.
anything
Yeah.
like that.
Okay. Yes. But I'm going to tell
Oh,
you,
y'all
on
hear
Shabbat, when you start looking at it, you're not to kindle a fire. You're not to cook. But there again, kindling a fire back then was so much more difficult
Right.
than today. You click, 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 and it's poof, you got a fire. So
You had to work to do it.
you had
back
to
then.
work.
And what's so interesting, I just thought about it. In the synagogue, they read the Torah every Shabbat. They read it over and over until it becomes a way of life. That's why it's so important to us to read this and to understand it, because that's when it becomes a way of life for us. It gets in our very being.
Okay, so my entire bottom line has disappeared here.
Sean,
Sean.
a bottom line disappear, whatever that is.
So I've got a Mac. Come here, smart guy. My whole line down here with my folders and everything, and I rebooted it, but it's gone.
If the sun's shining on that, it
Yeah.
may be getting too hot.
Yeah.
You may need to sit right there or at least block the sun.
Well, it did it earlier. So I tell you what, while Sean is Pelican. Well, Sean is seeing if he can fix this, because it may be my computer's getting ready to go. Bye-bye. And I've got to back it up because I've got so much stuff on this. Oh, my. Go to Zechariah.
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 He's gone in
Right
there.
after Nehemiah.
Oh,
Probably just hit it.
got it. Zechariah. What?
Zechariah 13.
I don't remember Zechariah.
It's page 642 and 43.
Wow.
That was way off.
Before Ruth. Yeah. Somebody near Job.
642, 43. Chapter 14, what?
We're going chapter 13,
Oh, 13.
8, and we're going to go all the way through 14, 12. They're really short. 13, 8. Valerie, you want to read?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Here you go. Can you see?
Yeah. Zechariah, chapter 13, verses 8 through chapter 14, 12,
21.
21. And it shall be throughout all the soil, declares Yahuwah, that 2/3 therein are cut off and die, and 1/3 is left therein. And I shall bring the 1/3 into fire, bring the third into fire, and refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I shall answer them. I shall say, this is my people, while they say, Yahuwah is my Elohim. Chapter 14. See, a day shall come for Yahuwah, and your spoil shall be divided in your midst, and I shall gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem. And the city shall be taken, the houses plundered, the women ravished. Half of the city shall go into exile, but the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. And Yahuwah shall go forth, and he shall fight against those nations, as he fights in the day of battle. And in that day his feet shall stand upon the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall be split in two, from east to west, a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall move toward the north, and half of it toward the south. And you shall flee to the valley of my mountain, for the valley of the mountains reach to Etzel, and you shall flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, sovereign of Yehudah. And Yahuwah my Elohim shall come, and all the set apart ones with you. And in that day it shall be, there is no light, it is dark, and it shall be one day which is known to Yahuwah, neither day nor night, but at evening time there shall be light. And in that day it shall be that living waters flow from Jerusalem, half of them toward the eastern sea, and half of them toward the western sea, in summer as well as in winter. And Yahuwah shall be sovereign over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Yahuwah, and his name one. And the land, all the land shall be changed into a desert plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem, and she shall be raised up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate to the place of the first gate, and the corner gate, and from the tower of Hanel to the pine presses of the sovereign. And they shall dwell in her, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this is the plague with which Yahuwah plagues all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall decay while they stand on their feet, and their eyes decay in their sockets, and their tongues decay in their mouths. And it shall be in that day that a great confusion from Yahuwah is among them, and every one of them shall seize the hand of his neighbor, and his hand rise up against his neighbor's hand. And Yehudah shall fight at Jerusalem as well, and the wealth of all the nations round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and garments in great quantities. So also is the plague on the horse and the mule, on the camel and the donkey, and on all the cattle that are in those camps, as this plague. And it shall be that all who are left from all the nations which come up against Jerusalem shall go up from year to year to bow themselves to the sovereign Yahuwah of hosts, and to celebrate the festival of Sukkot. And it shall be that if any one of the clans of the earth does not come up to Jerusalem to bow himself to the sovereign Yahuwah of hosts, on them there is to be no rain. And if the clan of Mizraim does not come up and enter in, then there is no rain. On them is the plague with which Yahuwah plagues the nations who do not come up to celebrate the festival of Sukkot. This is the punishment of Mizraim, and the punishment of all the nations that do not come up to celebrate the festival of Sukkot. In that day, set apart to Yahuwah shall be engraved on the bells of the horses, and the pots in the house of Yahuwah shall be like the bowls before the slaughter place. And every pot in Jerusalem and Yehuda shall be set apart to Yahuwah of hosts, and all those who slaughter shall come and take them and cook in them. And there shall be no longer a merchant in the house of Yahuwah of hosts in that day.
Guys, isn't that beautiful? This is our hope, what we're waiting for. And so guess what? They're going to celebrate the Feast of Sukkot. Why? Because they're going to be tabernacling with Yeshua
Millennium.
for 1,000 years. And
This
so,
is talking about that second Exodus also.
Yes, it
That's
is.
what this language is.
and it's beautiful.
Like
It
out
is
out of Egypt.
out of Egypt.
Yes.
So,
Mitzarim.
Mitzarim.
Reciprocal. That's what it is.
So in
And
that
that
day,
could also indicate the world. Today it represents the world system.
we're in Mitzrayim today.
That's
But
right.
listen, guys, we're all slaves. If you don't believe it, don't pay your taxes.
All the money.
Yeah, don't pay your taxes. He's gonna come get you, and it's not gonna be pretty.
They'll feed me.
Oh, he will feed you, but it's not
Not
gonna be
what I
what you
want.
want to eat. Okay.
Bologna sandwiches.
Okay. So I've got to make a phone call in a moment. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you 2 stories, and then we're gonna pray out. And do y'all have any questions right now? Well, I know Sean does. Anybody else?
Well, it's just so important that we understand this, that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I
And
changed not.
tomorrow, listen, tomorrow,
It's
You-
no,
can you imagine if you haven't been rehearsing Sukkot all these years, and suddenly you're like, what is Sukkot?
yeah.
We have to do what?
How are you gonna
What's
do it?
Sukkot? How are you going to do it? How are you
don't
going to know to
and
do
that's what
it?
we're going to be doing in the kingdom. I mean, it's the same. It's a dress rehearsal.
That's it. Okay, this is a short story. It's a funny, well, this one's short, and then I'm going to tell you a story about a little fox. And then we're going to be done.
Is that the one about Valerie?
It is. Levi, this is called the sukkah on the roof. Levi built a sukkah, and we already know that the sukkah is what the
Recited
Israelites
tent.
dwelled in, and what we build every year at Sukkot. Levi built a sukkah on the roof of his apartment building several days before the 8th holiday of Sukkot began. And after the holiday began, the landlord noticed it and demanded that it be removed immediately, claiming it was a violation of the terms of the building lease. Levi refused, telling the landlord that since this was a religious observance, he had the right to build the sukkah there. And the landlord disagreed and took the case to court. And in court, the landlord argued that the sukkah was unsightly, against the terms of the lease, and was a fire hazard. And Levi argued that his religious rights would be ignored. And the judge, who happened to be Jewish, listened patiently and then offered this verdict. I agree with the landlord in this case, and I therefore rule that you have 10 days from today to take down your sukkah. So in 10 days,
Yeah, it was
the
done.
code is over.
That's right.
So he
won.
basically ruled.
For both of them.
Yes. Okay, and I have one more.
Wisdom.
And thank goodness to Sean. He got us back in here. Not that Sean.
That one.
That Sean.
The good one. No,
The good Sean. Oh, that was bad.
I'm sorry.
I'm a bad one?
No, you're good.
Okay, so guys, listen. Next year we are gonna do Sukkot, and we're gonna do it right. We're gonna. I know. We're gonna try to live
you
together
said
for
last
7
year.
days. I said it last year, and
But you mean it for this year.
I mean it this year. Well, listen,
We'll
even
hold you to it.
my camper was gone.
Oh,
It's
that's
still
right.
gone. So
Maybe it'll be
by
that.
next year I should have it back, and so we will Sukkah. We'll tabernacle together. So during Sukkot, what do? You sit around the fire. You cook.
Amen.
You eat together.
You sing
You
praises.
rejoice. You
You
sing
enjoy
praises.
one another.
You tell stories.
We
Okay.
know each other.
Oh, my.
Okay. Are y'all ready for the
That
fox
could
and
be
the
dangerous
vineyard?
for me.
This is a good story.
She's got 7 days to do it.
Okay, so here we go. We're going to read about the fox and the vineyard. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a sly fox named Valerie. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I knew it. I'm on.
That was getting picked on you, huh? That was picking on you.
I
She
was
knows
just
she can because
joking.
she knows I love her.
There was a sly fox.
Speaking of her wisdom.
That's right. Speaking of her wisdom.
Oh,
Well,
good.
you may say that foxes are ever cunning, but this one was exceptionally wily. He always looked for ways to deceive others and gain things without any effort. So this is not Valerie. One day, the sly fox was passing by a beautiful vineyard, and he had often heard from the other foxes that the vineyard had the most luscious grapes one could ever think of. It belonged to a wealthy gentleman who stayed away most of the time, and the fox shook its head. How it wanted to enter the vineyard and taste the grapes. But that was impossible, for the vineyard was surrounded by a tall, thick fence on all sides. If only I could enter just once, I would have filled my tummy with the grapes, and it would have been a dream come true, thought the fox. And it went around the fence looking in vain for an aperture that he knew he would never find. So imagine his surprise when he found a small hole in the fence. And the fox could not believe his eyes at first. He raised one of his paws and passed it through the hole. No, he was not mistaken. The hole was right there, waiting for him to pass through. It was barely large enough for him to push his head through, and the fox struggled to get his body through the small aperture, but he was just too big to go through. So the fox sat there, and he fasted for one whole day, and he tried it again the next day. No, he was still too big. And so he fasted 2 more days, and he tried again to slip through the hole, and he was amazed at how easily he passed through the opening, which earlier seemed so small for him. Once inside the vineyard, the fox looked up to see lovely grapes hanging in bunches all around, and he was overjoyed at the sight, and his mouth began to water, and he ran to the nearest bunch. Oh, thought the fox, my friends were so right. These are the juiciest grapes I've ever tasted. And so the sly fox began to wander inside the vineyard and eat to his heart's content, and there was no one to disturb him. He slept as much as he wanted, he ate as much as he wanted, and he roamed about as much as he wished until he felt he had had his fill. So he went near the hole and tried to slip back through. Oops. But he was shocked to find that he could not, in spite of his best efforts, get himself out. Days of inactivity and overeating had made him bigger and fatter than ever before, and now again he found himself in the situation as before. So the poor fox had to fast again for 3 days until he got thin enough to slip back through the hole. As he found himself out of the vineyard, he gave a shout of joy, and then he looked again at the vineyard. As much as he could see of it through the hole, there was a vineyard, its leaves shining and bright, its lovely grapes twinkling in the morning sunlight. The poor fox became thoughtful. After a moment, he said, "How lovely you look, vineyard. Oh, how lovely are your fruits and vines. But what good are you to me? I leave you just as I came to you." The same is the case with this world. Our world is a beautiful place, but it is actually of no use to us. Just as we come into this world empty-handed, so we leave it. Only the Torah we study, the mitzvot we perform, the laws that we perform, and the good deeds that we practice are the real fruits which we can take along. We come into this world with nothing, and similarly we leave with no riches. Amen and amen.
I have a story to tell about the grapes.
Okay.
It really was me, the sly fox.
Oh, really?
This summer, I needed Mustang grapes for my juice, for grape jelly in the wintertime.
Uh-huh.
So I found a place, and
We're probably getting a confession here, guys. Y'all might want to take this. Okay.
oh, they might get me. So I found a place because there weren't a whole lot of Mustang grapes this year, and I had to really look to find some. And I found a place and went out by myself, and these people said, "You better be careful with snakes," and it was really dangerous looking. But I got a few, but on the other side of the fence, they were luscious. I mean, there was just big clusters of them. And I thought, so I talked. What?
It was like right on the
Oh,
last
so I
part.
talked my husband into taking me out there in case something might happen. So I went around the fence and I was just picking and picking, and all of a sudden something happened. I thought I was going to fall, and that's when I tore my 2 meniscus.
Oh, really?
So the story is I shouldn't have been on the other side where those grapes were, like the fox.
Yep.
So I didn't go back.
Well, that was a good story.
I thought it was.
So you were that sly fox, but
Yeah.
But the good thing was you didn't have to fast and fast. So I had pictures of some of the craziest sukkahs you've ever seen, and somewhere along the line they went bye-bye. So I'm going to tell you about the sukkahs.
He can find them probably.
We had a sukkah on the back of a car. We had a sukkah in, it was in the Vatican, and it was about this big. It was big enough for a man to stand in. He was a Hebrew man. He built his sukkah.
In the back of
Listen, guys, no matter where you are, if you want to build your sukkah, build it. Perform Sukkot. Because, I mean, they built it wherever. There was one on a boat. But I was going to show you a picture of Jerusalem. I was in Jerusalem during Sukkot. Every apartment building, they built their sukkahs out on their balconies. One of the craziest sukkahs was one that was built outside a window. I don't know if they actually got into it. But they are everywhere. But it's just amazing. And, of course, there are so many people who have gone back. They've done what is called Aliyah. They've gone home to Israel. They're Israelites, and they can prove their descendants, and they go back. They're going back home right now, guys. There's a calling for everyone to return home, and so one day we will return home in that second Exodus, and we just need to thank Him. Thank Him that He's brought us here. And Father, we need to pray. We need to pray to Abba that He opens eyes and hearts, because we want our family, we want our friends to go with us, right? Okay. Y'all want to pray out, and then y'all are free to run the trails. Go canoeing if you can.
Swimming.
Go swimming. Oh, yeah. I want to watch that.
It's muddy.
Valerie, would you pray us out?
Father, we just thank you for this beautiful, beautiful day that you've given to us, the day of Sukkot. And we thank you that we were able to honor that day and be out here with our family. Forgive us because we do fall short of the glory of Yah, and help us to really understand what we've learned today and know that you've said it so many times about the feast over and over, and that's, when you say it more than once or even more than twice, it's that important to you. So help our hearts to have taken this in, and really help us to take an inventory of our lives and look at who we are and whose we are.
Yes.
That's so important, that we want to be covenanted into the house of Israel, that we're to be grafted in. So as we come together and we go our different ways, just bless each person here. Bless each one to be lifted up and to walk that path, to walk in the way, and to let Yeshua guide us. And what you want us to do is imitate Yeshua. And the only way we're going to know how to do that is to read and study the Torah, to see how you want us to change and to be those special, set-apart people that you called us to be. We thank you for each one that is here and who they represent. And we've all got loved ones that we want to share with. And Father, you're the one that touches the heart and opens that door to understanding. We can't do anything but just be a light and the salt of the earth. Let us do that. Let us start living our lives and just do what you've called us to do, have the mind of Yeshua, which is the Torah, and to walk that walk. Be righteous, as it talks about the definition in Deuteronomy 6:25. So we love you today. Oh yeah, thank you for Vicki and her dedication and just studying and helping us to understand. Bless her and her family. And we love you today, and we thank you. In the precious, precious name of Yeshua, we ask it. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so y'all can go bye-bye. Okay, my battery's just
Later, y'all.
Eat again.
Here's me. Here's you. Bye-bye. Okay. Live streamers, we want to thank you for joining us today for our Sukkot celebration. We're fixing to go walk the trails. Right.
You are going to walk the trail.
I'm going to be alone. I'm going to walk the trails by myself.
Somebody will walk it with you.
But we're going to go walk the trails, and we hope you join us on Shabbat for our Sabbath study. And I need to get loud. We're a loud, happy bunch, aren't we? Be blessed. We love you, and we're praying for each and every one of you.
Shalom.
Shalom.